my journey with brain health and, in school, just thinking about why we don't look at the brain and just missing pieces in all of my psychology and sociology classes. Just a lot kind of went back to knowing from a young age that my mom had a brain problem because she had epilepsy. And so she kind of has a cool story about how she has been doing on our supplements after us just kind of using the brain health assessment and some of the other tools that the doctors gave her. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more from her, just about the journey with epilepsy and then the TBIs and then the supplements you've been taking since you did the brain health assessment and how they've been helping you.
Okay, so backwards. First of all, I developed epilepsy after having convulsions 3 times before I was a year old. And it caused a scar tissue buildup, which is called mesial temporal sclerosis. But I didn't start having seizures until I was 12 and I started my period. That's when all hell broke loose. And I had seizures for many years. And when I stopped having seizures because I had brain surgery, I had a right temporal lobectomy in 2005 in Boston.
Still so
Best
weird.
thing I ever did.
Still so
Best
weird,
thing
though.
I ever did. But up until that point, 2 years before that, I was taking Depo so I wouldn't have seizures. But every time Fallon and Vanessa would have their period, I would have a seizure. It's so messed up, people. Really messed up.
We're so mean.
I mean, it was horrible. Sometimes even her friends that practically lived at our house would have. Laura was there one day at the pool. I'm like, all right, who has their period? I'm having a seizure.
Yeah.
She's like, Fal started early. There you go. That's how it went. Anyway, I had brain surgery in 2005. I've been seizure free, but had other temporal lobe issues come up. In my brain surgery, they took away 2/3 of my temporal lobe on the right side. That's where the mesial temporal sclerosis was. And once they removed that, then the seizures went away. So I'm off medication, but after having a job that I loved for 10 years, I lost my job and I got really depressed. So Fallon got me supplements. 5 labs religiously twice a day. Yay! As well as the SAMI.
Yeah, so the everyday stress relief and the SAMI and the omegas, and I made sure you got your hormones checked because that was super. I mean, that was the most related thing to your seizures, even though you weren't having periods, you're still just like experiencing weird cycles. So it's interesting because you had a SPECT before I even knew what a SPECT was, but obviously now
it's from my brain surgery.
Yeah. So we haven't done a SPECT on you at the clinic, but just using the brain health assessment and some of the other tools through some of our affiliated functional medicine doctors, we were like, what's the worst that could happen trying that combo? And you've been doing so well on it and it's super fun and I'm so happy. So, any takeaways?
For you, I think a lot of the temporal lobe issues you had probably came from me.
Yeah.
Mine was seizures, but still they're all in the temporal lobe. So everything, if I hadn't had seizures, maybe it would have been ADHD. Maybe I would have been.
Maybe. Definitely.
Maybe I would have just been ADD, maybe, because, Dad has a little too.
Yeah.
Of the ADHD.
Yeah. And that's why for me, stimulants didn't do well because I had that temporal ADD, which you're stimulating something that's already overstimulated, which would make me like angry and manic and just like not good.
Not easy to deal with until you had sports.
Right.
So if you weren't feeling yourself, you could go for a run and you'd feel better. So I don't know. They just don't have any of these products in Maine, and that was a problem. I mean, that's why I went to Boston for the surgery, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Because can't get anything in Maine.
Yeah. But it's weird because I got tested for epilepsy after my first concussion because I just like fell over for no reason.
Right.
And then punctured a hole in my parietal lobe, which is thankfully not there anymore because the hyperbaric and supplements. But that was like even more scary. It was like, do I have epilepsy? And then having to do all that. And then they coming back negative, but me still feeling like weird and like dizzy and nauseous and stuff. And then it was just the concussions. And then of course I got more and just kind of got worse and snowballed from there.
The worst thing about epilepsy is the deja vu. Deja vu is so strong that every time you think, oh my God, what's going to happen? And that lasts 2 minutes and it goes away.
And it's weird because when I was doing intakes, nobody understood why we asked that question, because if you're having it a lot of time, then it's temporal. If you have it once, you know, every few months or a couple times a year, like I feel like that's kind of just like a good thing that's happening where, you know, God's trying to like tell you something that you might need to know. But when you're having it all the time, that's when it becomes clinical. So,
and I just want to say that mine was in the right side. You can also get it in your left side,
which is worse.
Which I wouldn't have had brain surgery because that's where your speech and your motor skills are.
And suicidal and homicidal thoughts.
Well,
like Dr. Hanna says, if you're about to like fall, like just need to try to fall on your right side instead of your left side because the left is worse to injure. Yeah.
And also, I forgot to add, the right side, the hippocampus, which is your short-term memory, mine was shriveled up to the size of the end of your fingernail, and it's supposed to be a $50. Yours is a $50. So they removed it when they were in there because if they remove it, it makes the left side take over for the right.
Which is weird because you have a better memory than me.
I know,
like,
I have a better memory than everybody.
Like dates, like you never have to use a list for anything. Like it's kind of freaky. Your memory is so good.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why, because it was being hindered. Because up until age 12, when I started my period, I had a photographic memory.
Right. Which I have that.
So
like my auditory is still not great.
I'm still really spatial. Like I can see pictures of a skeleton from 5th grade and I can name the bones of the body because I can see the skeleton.
So weird.
That's it.
Well, hopefully you guys learned something, and it was just cool to do it with my mom because on my
she's 35 today. Happy
vacation, and you know I almost killed you being born anyway by yanking out your uterus. So I figured
her cord was this long. Super fun.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.